What's up, guys? It's been a moment since the last fantasy event. The last one was the RIO playoffs, where I got to 48% with double Furia. I was playing against Vitality, which would have worked if Furia got more than 6 rounds versus Mouse, but overall, could have been a lot worse. And I'm still number 2 on the leaderboard. I've got a pretty good lead over number 3. And the next event in the season is a bit of an unusual one. We've got a Challenger event in the regular season, ESL Challenger Katowice. Let's take a look. If you're not familiar with Challenger, it's very straightforward. Top 2 teams from each group go to the playoffs. First of one group plays second of the other. So if you're going a 2-2-1 draft, you either want to get the team that comes first or I guess second in each group so they don't play each other, or you double up in one group and go for first and second. They play on opposite sides, meet again in the grand final. Depends on who you're confident in with these teams. I think with Group A, you're looking at Falcons and Eternal Fire. I think people are going to be underrating Falcons, but I do think on LAN, they should be able to perform here with Simple, but Eternal Fire definitely are the favorites. I think Saw without Orthos and without Berry, I don't really rate. Fate, I think, are good, but they're lacking a bit of experience when it comes to LAN. In Group B, Pain should be topping this group every single day. They're the best in Brazil. They literally beat every Brazilian team, and this is the Brazilian group. Not to mention, I think MIBR are probably the next best team, particularly when it comes to challenger events, but Pain has beat them every single time that they've played. Like, it's a crazy comparison between the two. So this should be Pain. Monty, an interesting dark horse, but yeah, Pain, Eternal Fire, Falcons, MIBR, probably the 4 teams I have the most confidence in. So looking at players, obviously Eternal Fire are the favorites, probably that win the whole thing, and it makes sense that all 5 of their players are in the most picked players. But because of that, I would maybe practice some hesitancy here. I know that, Magic is good value, Wakadi is good value. There's Antares for 230, Voxic for 219. I think they're too expensive. Honestly, I think that given that Eternal Fire is so picked, Xantares is the 5th most picked player at 230. That means people picking Xantares are going to be having a limited budget elsewhere. So if you're going Eternal Fire, I think you're better off going a couple of the cheaper players and then grabbing more expensive players elsewhere and kind of leveraging that difference, because I think there's going to be so many people going heavy on Eternal Fire here that if there's a stumbling block, if Antares doesn't pop off, if it's, Calix that takes over the game or whatever, if they get knocked out, it's going to ruin so many drafts that having that backup elsewhere makes sense. I think Pain is maybe a good team to do that with. I think if you're looking at Pain, Bigazera has been their best performer consistency-wise when it comes to LAN. I think if you want a gold, you're looking at Lux. He's just their star player. Whereas NQZ falls off a lot when it comes to LAN. Like, it's a massive drop-off, so I wouldn't ever get him. I get Lux. I think Snow is a pretty consistent choice. I think Cowes is a bad one, though. Do not go Cowes, go Snow, but Bigazera is the safest pick here. MIBR, speaking of safe, Safe's the only guy I'd be going here, to be honest. Insani, too expensive in my books. Lakalzi, we haven't seen enough of on this team to warrant picking him yet, so I think Safe is really the only one that I would say, yep, this is the guy to go. Saw, again, I think it's too soon with the changes in this team to feel confident picking into them, so I'd only go one player, and I'd probably make that Story if I was going to get anybody. I think the pricing's just a little bit too off. Like, Jax is 217, that's way too much, and I don't really know enough about Agile yet to be able to pick him. For Falcons, obviously the question's around Simple. He's the most picked player, and honestly, I don't think he's a bad choice. For 205k, for Falcons, who we're pretty confident will get through, I think he's pretty decent, especially if you're not picking Eternal Fire, then you definitely want to be picking Simple, at least get just him. I would not touch Dupree, Magisk, or Madden, way too much inconsistency from those 3. But I think Snappy is a really good choice. I'm actually surprised he's not in the top 8 most picked, because he has like 88% on eco-friendly activation. His boosters are great. And honestly, I don't think he's that bad. I really think that he's one of the most valued picks you can get at this event. Just the amount of money he gives you to spend elsewhere. Like I said, I do actually rate bait. So if you are going for a dark horse kind of draft, then grab MPL. This guy is probably one of the best fragging IGLs out at the moment. Headtrick also, we've seen some really good stuff from him on bait, so I think both of those are pretty cool choices. I wouldn't touch Legacy. These guys dropped off completely since the RMR at the start of the year. Like, I feel like I've seen nothing from them since then. And then Monty, again, dark horse team. I think that you've got some pretty cheap players here that you could play with. Hades is pretty affordable. Demka's obviously the strongest player on this team, but I'd go like a bronze in Hades if you're going to touch Monty. So I think with this event, you either draft Eternal Fire or you draft Simple. I feel like that's the approach to Group A. I think if you draft both, it's maybe a little too NPC, so I won't be doing that. And because Eternal Fire have their entire roster in the most picked players, I'm going to avoid them, which means I'm going to be going Simple. I'm going to grab him, and I'm going to grab Snappy, who again, I think is the best value player this entire event. So I'm very happy with this combo, releasing with a lot of money, which means I can spend a little bit more on a strong team from Group B, which, as you know, will be Pain. Going to grab Lux. I think he's going to be underpicked as a star player. And I'm going to grab Snow. I'd like to get Biggest Error, but unfortunately it doesn't really leave me with much money left over. And I think Snow can actually perform really well against the teams here. Leaves me in 203, which is enough to grab Safe, who I think is a bit of an underrated pick here. He always pops off when it comes to these challenger events. I think MIBR are going to be slipped on a little bit here. So that's going to be my team. Let me know what you think. I've gone against Eternal Fire. Is that a mistake? We'll find out. Let me know what you're drafting. And as always, good luck.